kind of funny that I've been doing 2 volumes of video of Trigun Maximum since, basically since I started this. And this was a week that I was like, you know what, I think I'll up it to 3 volumes. Then I got done reading the 2nd volume for this week, which was Wolfwood. And as soon as I got done, I said, you know what, I'm not going 1 page further until this is addressed and this has been discussed. And I don't normally do this, and especially not this far into a series of videos, but these are spoiler discussions, and I'm going to walk through the story as well as review the stories. So if you, for some reason, have not read these 2 volumes and are here to watch this video, please do yourself a favor and stop the video. Go read these volumes, and then come back and watch this later, and then you can thank me later, because these really should be experienced with the manga rather than through some video and then go and experience it with the books later. This hits on a certain level and in a certain way that is just special. That being said, this section of the story starts off with Wolfwood heading off on his own to go face the Eye of Michael. And I said at the end of my last video that it looked like they were separating for some strange reason. That felt odd to me. It didn't feel like it was a good time for them to separate, but it looked like they were. Well, they are. And as far as I can tell, at least in Wolfwood's eyes, this is the climax. They are preparing to go to their climaxes separately. Vash is going to go confront Knives, and he needs to go off and confront the Eye of Michael. And they're going to do this separately. Or at least, like I said, this seems like the vision that Wolfwood has in his mind. And the whole thing's going to start off with a flashback to Wolfwood's childhood. And at this point, he's basically with Levio. And Levio's really a big crybaby who really has a hard time handling just about anything. And at one point, he notices a crazy look in Levio's eye that he's never seen before. And Levio starts turning up with like blood on his hands, and there's like dead puppies. And this leads all the other kids in the orphanage to kind of think of him like he's a serial killer, which, you might not be wrong. These are all of the trademark, like signs and signals. Anyway, back in the present, Levio and the head of the Eye of Michael take the entire orphanage that Levio and Wolfwood grew up in as children hostage as a way of getting Wolfwood's attention. And guess what? It works. Wolfwood shows up and the showdown begins. And it's everything you would expect one of these showdowns to be, especially one this late in the game, and especially one that is thought of in Wolfwood's mind as the end, the climax. So is it that? Well, it feels like it. Holy shit. And it's wonderful. It's what do you expect from a Trigun Maximum fight? Like I said, at this point in the game, the art is as good as you would expect it to be. The drama is as good as you would expect it to be. And it's really this ultimate climactic battle between Wolfwood and Levio, intercut with a lot of backstory back to their childhoods. And to be honest, at this point in the manga, we haven't had an entirely large amount of Wolfwood's backstory. He's remained relatively mysterious. He's from an orphanage. He's working for the orphanage. Everything he does is for these kids. And we also know that he is the Eye of Michael, and he was trained as an assassin, and he's also one of the Gung Ho Guns, and he works for Knives. All of this stuff, but we don't ever really know how he got to that point and why he's so invested in this orphanage and everything. So we finally get that. And, to be quite honest, it is kept at an arm's length even now. We get really small bits and pieces, which I actually appreciate. Instead of really beating you over the head with Wolfwood's backstory, you get enough. You get more than enough to know what happened. But you get like one little scene here, one little scene there, one little scene here. Let you understand exactly what he is and how he is. And it's the perfect amount. It is just the right amount of information so I fully understand who he is, where he came from. But we're not going to overly do it. It's just so good. So good. So well done. I love it. Anyway, after Levio leaves the orphanage, so does Wolfwood. And we're going to see Levio alone for a little while. And he will sometimes receive these strange cryptic messages handwritten in his own pocket from some character named Raslo that we don't have any idea who he is or why he's receiving strange written messages from him. Meanwhile, back in the present, when he's fighting with Wolfwood, Wolfwood's at one point going to come out on top and go to confront the old man when suddenly Levio gets back up. But now he looks very different, and he identifies himself as Raslo. So Raslo and Levio the whole time were the same person, which I actually figured the second he had those handwritten messages in his own pocket. I was like, oh, that's interesting. Is he going to have some type of multiple personality thing going on here? And he does. Also, he has some kind of a weird third mechanical arm out of nowhere for seemingly no reason. But, you know, what do you do? It's Trigun. Also, if I'm being fully honest, I'm going to go on the record right now as saying that the character of Levio is an infinitely better character design than the character of Raslo. Just saying. Anyway, the fight gets to a point where Wolfwood has the old man down now and is going to take him out, and Raslo and the old man just can't seem to wrap their heads around this turn in Wolfwood, this change in him. He's always fought for something, always fought for these kids, but he's fighting different now. He's acting different. He's not acting like the Wolfwood that they grew up with, the Wolfwood that they trained, the Wolfwood that they fought with for so long. Something in him is different since he's been with Vash, and his loyalty to Vash, they just don't understand. And he is absolutely committed to this idea that Vash is going to win and Vash will come out on top, and they just can't seem to understand it. They even question him at one point, do you really think that Vash can beat knives? And at this point, I don't think it matters to Wolfwood. I don't think he really thinks of it like that. I don't know if he even cares. He has a friend now, a friend in Vash, a real friend. I think it's the first true, genuine friend he's ever had in his entire life. And he's fighting for something. Vash is fighting for something. He's fighting for an ideal. And it has somehow slowly infected Wolfwood to the point where Wolfwood is now fighting for Vash's sense of ideals and idealism, you know, where he used to argue with him, and he still does. Pretty much every chance he gets, he still argues with Vash. But he has gotten to a point now where he is influenced enough by Vash that he's now standing up for something on his own. He's now standing up for something. And he's going to die for that something if he needs to, if it comes to that. And it's not even really about winning anymore. It's standing up for that higher set of ideals, and this is really new for Wolfwood. And it's really sad at one point in the fight when Wolfwood kind of stops and thinks, you know, if I had only brought Vash with me, we could have done this together. But when the old man gets pissed off and goes to take everything from Wolfwood by killing the orphans, the bullets are stopped by Vash. And to be quite honest, at this point, I was wondering what took him so long to get there. You know, Vash isn't going to let Wolfwood go out on his own and just do this all by himself willy-nilly. That's not really Vash's style. So the whole time I'm like, this feels what? Where's Vash? Come on now. And he just shows up at the best possible second. Let's be real. Maybe not realistic storytelling-wise, but as far as satisfying storytelling goes, yes, absolutely. And of course, this turns into a fight scene between the four of them now, with the two on the Aya Michael side, and now Wolfwood and Vash fight side by side. And they just go lockstep into fighting, and they just, they are, everything that they've learned of the entire Trigun Maximum in working as a team is just on full force display here. They're trading shots, they're trading enemies, they're switching opponents mid-fight because they're just so fluid and fluent in each other's motions and thoughts. It is utterly wonderful to read. It is great. Although it is worth noting that in here, Wolfwood just keeps drinking those vials that rejuvenate his body. At one point, he even drinks 2 at a time, which his body shouldn't even be capable of handling, but he does just to keep fighting. And once the old man goes down, and now it's just Raslo left, Vash steps out of the fight, and leaves Wolfwood to fight alone, and now it's just one-on-one Raslo versus Wolfwood. And Vash will even stop Raslo's henchmen from interfering in the fight just to make sure that it stays one-on-one between Wolfwood and Raslo. They can finish this amongst themselves. But instead, actually, the old man, which we thought was dead, isn't, and he goes to kill both Raslo and Wolfwood. He'll just take them all out if that's how he's going to end up taking out Wolfwood, which then upsets Raslo. Long story short, Levio will eventually have a change of heart. Not only will Levio take control of his body back from Raslo and decide this isn't what he wants. This isn't what he wants at all. And ultimately, the fight's actually going to end peacefully. And at the end of the day, not only was Levio not killed in the fight, he's actually redeemed. And after everything's said and done, we get one final scene of Wolfwood sitting down with Vash to have one last drink. And after everything that we've been through, not only in the entire manga thus far, but just in this section alone, just in what Wolfwood's gone through and all the revelations and realizations that we've had, and then this big fight with Vash, and just getting to see everything that we've built towards up until now play out for us, this ends up being just one of the most satisfying scenes in the entire manga. Just them in this decimated wasteland of a world on this weird, broken down, dirty looking couch, having a drink together. I don't even know how to express how wonderful and satisfying this felt to read, just to see them in this situation and in this way and in this type of an aftermath situation. It was the calm after the storm. I'm not even going to lie and pretend like I actually caught what happened here. I knew what was ultimately going to happen. At least I had a strong inkling, but I didn't realize as I was looking at one of the panels that I literally just witnessed the death of Wolfwood. And it wasn't till like the next page when Vash says something about he died. And I said, wait, whoa. And I like backed up and I looked at the picture again, and everything you need to know is right there. All the information I needed, but I missed it and I had to go back. And now there's a panel in that scene that was just so satisfying to read that wasn't satisfying anymore. Now it was heartbreaking, and it was so sad. So it's amazing how you can read a scene and then go back and look at a picture again, and I just had a whole different feeling, no less wonderful. Not that a death is wonderful, but it was just the way it was presented. It was just done so well. Kudos to Nigtao for this one. I must say it was, for a scene, a death scene of a major character in a manga, it was very affecting, very effective and affecting, and just so well done. I can't say enough. It was great. So in the end, Wolfwood dies and Levio lives. And I think there was even on the back of one of the book volumes, it said 2 men will enter this fight and only 1 man will survive or lives or walks away, which, it's pretty typical cliche to say, but it's true, and it's true in the exact opposite way that you would expect it to be true for this fight, for this manga, for any real story on this level. The bad guy's not the one to live and walk away, but in this one, it is, and he is, and it's just, it was so good. I mean, in the end, Wolfwood lives through standing up for everything that he believes in, everything that he's always wanted to stand up for, or already has stood up for the kids, stood up for the orphanage, but now he's also standing for his new set of ideals that he has just really grown to accept over the past recent history with Vash. And he lives through all of it, and he survives all of it. all while standing up against the very organization that made him the Eye of Michael, just to come out the other side and lives long enough, just long enough, to have one last drink with his friend, his one true friend in the world. And then at that point, his body just can't take any more and gives up. And it was so fucking good. Oh my God, I loved it. And I mean, just leave it to Trigun to be one of the coolest looking mangas as far as just art and being drawn in the action and just the cool factors, like on a 10. And then, which you would think would be enough driving force to carry it through. But he doesn't stop there, because he always brings the feels. He always brings the heart. And he finds a way to bring the emotion. It is very well done, very well put together. And then really fast at the end of the volume, Vash blows something up. Half of his hair turns black because he used so much power, and he's going to set off to go for the Ark. I think he actually blew the Ark up, but then he goes looking for the Ark and he says it's heading that way. So if it's heading that way, then did he blow it up? I'm not entirely sure, because it sure shit looked like he blew it up when he lost his fucking mind sitting on that couch next to Wolfwood. I don't know. Anyway, I read these 2 volumes back to back, and I'm going to say this shit was a 10. I think it's the first 10 I've given Trigun, and I don't even care. And maybe it's just because I'm a softie and I'm a sucker for Wolfwood, but 10 out of 10. These 2 volumes were fucking wonderful. As always, everybody, the link for my Patreon's in the description below. The link for my Discord's in the description below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.